Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of our CBL X's and O's podcast for season 2023. We're sitting down to review what was round 2 in the Southwest Conference, and today I've got Beck McIntyre joining me again. Welcome, Beck.
Thank you. How are you today?
Going well. I was up in the Southwest Conference to see Hamilton for their first home game in the 2023 season, and we'll start there. And unfortunately, they couldn't get the party going and had a loss to the Warrnambool Seahawks, but they showed really good basketball for the first 2 quarters, which was great to see.
Excellent. No, that's good. I'm pretty sure that Kira and the committee would have been pretty happy to have you up there for their first home game. So it looked like from the pictures on their Facebook and what they were putting on their socials that they had an absolutely bumping crowd, and that the Hamilton area got around them. And, just like a lot of these teams that are coming into the conference for the first time for a while, sometimes it's not about necessarily what's on the scoreboard as much as we want it to be winning. It's not always what it's about. So it's exciting to see CBL back in Hamilton.
Definitely was. The crowd was huge. We had kids chanting Hungry Jacks during free throws. It was a phenomenal atmosphere, and the product they put on was really good for their first game. So I hope they can continue that through. Obviously, the result didn't do justice for what they were trying to achieve. But, when Riley Nicholson shoots 28 points and Harry McGorm comes behind with 20, it's going to be hard to stop Warrnambool on their roll.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Warrnambool would have been happy to get back on the winners board too. I think it's probably an important win for them there, just to, get some confidence about what they're doing and creating there, and, moving forward into the next few rounds.
And also on Saturday night, Portland hosted Ararat and stamped their authority on the league, let's say, but with a 45-point win. Nathan Hardingham continuing his fine form of 31 points.
Yeah, it looked. I was just having a look at the scores earlier, and Nathan's had a day out. On Sunday, he had a day out, so he's really putting himself out there as being, the leading potential scorer, and also, MVP favourite. Only after round 2, so I'm pretty sure that Coach Hayden would be pretty happy with that, especially with that mix of youth and experience that they have. But yeah, like it's obviously not ideal for Ararat again, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that Ararat's been clear on what their goals are too, and it's about development for them this year, just really trying to be that goal for those kids coming up through their association. And it's so important, as you and I know, that these country associations have something for the kids to be able to look up to be able to have a goal to reach, and to have that for them to be able to work hard to be a part of. Without that, it does impact the rest of the association.
Certainly does. Colac made the trip up the highway to your town in Horsham, and the Horsham Hornets were able to defend their home court, and Austin McKenzie shooting 20 points led the way for the Hornets.
Yeah, look, our boys were able to get over the line. The score doesn't necessarily represent. It was pretty close for the first half. It was really, really good for Horsham, as we said in the preview, that, we had a few of our, more experienced and starting 5 players away for the weekend. So what that enabled was Aussie to get out there and, lead the way with some of these kids that we had. A couple of our veterans stepped up, but we also had a couple of really cool performances from Tarkan Bembo stepped up, and, he shot 11 or 12 points. And then we had another one of our young guys that's probably been in the program for 3 or 4 years, hasn't had much court time, in Ryan Fitzner, and it was probably the best 10-point game I've seen in a long time. He just took his opportunity and grabbed it. So that was exciting for Horsham to see. At one stage we had, I think, 5 players out there that were all 16 or 17. So Coach Bembo was able to get, the young ones on at the end. And as much as it's about winning, it was pretty cool for the crowd to see, our 3 people on debut coming along and actually getting out there on the court. So that was super exciting and exciting for the future of Horsham. But yeah, Colac was a good team, and obviously Liam played really well. He led the way with 22 points. So, I think that they've probably got a little bit of depth as well with them. They've got to try and maybe work on getting a couple more players in there. But if they can get 1 or 2 more players, they're definitely up there being competitive.
And then we had the battle of the SA teams. Millicent travelled down to Mount Gambier, and from all accounts, from what I've heard, it's come down to the last second of the game. And a new inclusion this season to the Mount Gambier Lakers in Tom Daly hit that game-winning shot. Interesting result here, considering Millicent I was watching the game, the live score, and Millicent were up most of the game. And I reckon they were up still 10 points with about 4 or 5 minutes still in the play. So for this to turn that way, the way it did, it's a very interesting result.
Yeah, look, I mean, it definitely was the game of the round, obviously, with it being so close. Would have been fabulous to watch, I'd imagine. Yeah, look, I mean, obviously with Tom Daly in that team, that is a massive inclusion for them. But, you know, they're always tough, as we said, you know, Mount Gambier. I think, you know, like it's probably going to set the tone for this. I think it's probably started to set the tone, as we were just talking earlier, is that, you know, it's really starting to separate itself, I think, already, even after round 2, with the kind of potential top 4 teams and you know, the bottom teams or whatever. But I think a few of those teams that haven't been able to get wins early, I think they can only get 1 or 2 more players, and, you know, they change the whole look of the competition. But yeah, a shot on the buzzer, round 2 is probably not what you'd be wanting. I wouldn't have thought straight up, but it must have been a pretty good game to watch, I reckon.
It was a little bit disappointing for Millicent. Obviously, they started off 2-0, but now they're 2-2 with 2 losses. They won on Sunday, but you know, they've had 2 losses in a row. Don't read into too much of this result. We had Jackson and Jack both missing, so it'll be interesting to see once they get back on the court and battle up against Mount Gambier again, if the result will turn the tides, especially on the Magic's home court.
Yeah, look, and that's what we've always said with these early games. As important as they are come to the end of the season, they actually aren't a bit hard to be able to tell, because people are generally in and out with their availability just, you know, through October. There's still lots of things going on. So, you know, it is hard with that continuation of our season going for so long. So, you know, 1 or 2 people out of a team makes a big difference. So, yeah, definitely without having, you know, those 2 fellas in there, that's a big out for Millicent. So looking forward to seeing how that looks moving forward.
And Sunday, Horsham had another home game against Terang and were able to take the win. And Austin McKenzie, shooting 25, improved on his 20 points from Saturday night. How'd the game go Sunday?
Yeah, look, from all accounts, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there. I had to go to state tryouts for the under-20s women in Melbourne. But yeah, they had another really good game. You know, were able to rotate and get a lot of the kids on again, which they were happy about. As we know, Ozzy is a fantastic player. You know, Horsham are just so glad that he comes back to play for them. And, you know, he's been an outstanding player for the Hornets for a long time, and hopefully will continue to be. But, you know, he's pretty well good for a 20, 30-point game every time he steps on the floor. And he's really stepped into that, as much as he's still so young, he's stepped into that leadership role now. And he's been, you know, so good for the young kids out there. You know, he was being able to create for them and, you know, get them the ball and bring people into the game. So it's been really nice to see him take on that role. And I see Michael Livingston was a debuter on Sunday, and he was able to get on the court and shoot 5 points, which I think probably would have been pretty amazing for him. I'm hearing that it was a 3-pointer and the crowd went crazy. So, yeah, so that's really nice. Maddie Lovell, Damien Scurry, you know, they're a couple of our veterans always there. Cody Bembo's also someone. He was in the All-Star 5 last year, I'm pretty sure, or Defensive Player of the Year, but he definitely won a league award last year. He's an exceptional player, so it was good to see him step up. But yeah, lots of depth for them and lots of things to like. And I wasn't sure about the Terang team, but having a look, Riley Hutchins has got 22, so he's had a pretty good day out. And we've got Justin Wallace here with 12 points. So yeah, they're consistent, and they'll keep coming along and keep working. And it's just really fabulous for Terang to have that men's team for those kids to look up to.
And we mentioned in the preview last week, Ararat had a tough road trip, and it's actually shown in their results. You know, both games going down by 40 plus or close enough to 40. It was always going to be a tough weekend for Ararat. It's just the way the fixture falls sometimes, but they went up against Mount Gambier, and I guess holding Mount Gambier to 80 points is probably a credit to Ararat.
Yeah, look, I mean, you'd have to just look at these games, I think, if you're coaching these teams, and you've just got to take out the positives and have a look at what your goals are. You know, sometimes you can't control what the other team's going to do, but you can set yourself some goals like, you know, holding teams to certain points, trying to, you know, just be competitive through quarter scores rather than end result scores. So, you know, there's lots of things to be able to implement and work on that doesn't necessarily equal the end score. So I think that they'll just be focusing on that and, you know, just trying to get better. Like, obviously this is the goalpost now. So when you play them next time, what can we do? How can we get better? How can we improve that? So I think that'll be, you know, big on the line for Arat moving forward.
And Portland made the road trip up to Hamilton for their second game of the weekend, and the Hurricanes put up a pretty good outing, you know, to shoot 69 points and hold Portland to 94 with, you know, Nathan Hardingham shooting 35. Hamilton have got to be pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, I think so. And looking at the quarter by quarter scores, it's really just you know, there's a bit of a gap in the third quarter, it looked like. But other than that, they seem like they were pretty competitive throughout the other quarters. And you know, when you've got you know, Hardingham coming out and shooting 35, it's you know, obviously he's just been on a roll and no one's been able to stop him as well. So an exciting thing for Portland was that they had multiple scorers over 10 points, which I think as a coach is always something that you like. If you can have 5 or 6 people scoring more than 10, then, you know, generally you will be able to be, you know, successful. But I think, you know, how good is it just for the home crowd to be able to sit there and watch, you know, the Hamilton boys out on the floor, be cheering for them, seeing them come up. I mean, you know, there's some names in there that have come right through that association all through their rep program. So I think that's the win for them. And the fact that they've put on, you know, a stellar weekend and have done 2 home games back to back, that's hard to do, especially for your first weekend in a few years. So it's a credit to them. And they've just got to keep working and keep developing and just keep looking to the future, which is, you know, exciting.
And Millicent hosted Warrnambool and were able to get the victory on their home court by 14 points. It was going to be an interesting matchup, this one, and it was a nice close game.
Yeah. And I mean, as we've talked about, Millicent's the party house. So, you know, it's hard to go there and beat them there. They get big supporters and, you know, it's very loud and rowdy. So, which is a good thing. I love it when we play there. So, yeah, they're always going to be hard to beat there. But you've got a couple that have come out with, you know, over 20-point games. I think Warrnambool obviously would be, you know, still impressed with that. It's only 14 points, which as we know is nothing. So, yeah, they'll be taking the positives out of that, I would reckon, and looking to move forward. I think looking at, you know, their team, they didn't have a couple of noticeable names in that, it looks like. And yeah, I think they'll just be focusing on trying to improve week in, week out. But I think they'll be a team that will improve by the end of the season.
And we'll just take a look at the ladder at the end of round 2, and Portland up on top, 3-0. Horsham sitting second with a 2-0 record. Mount Gambier third, 2-0. They're our 3 undefeated teams. Looking quite strong at the moment. Millicent's played the 4 games, sitting in 4th spot, 2 wins, 2 losses. So that's our top 4 at the moment. And then as we go down, we go down to Warrnambool and Ararat, Terang, Colac and Hamilton sitting on the bottom. So it's interesting how it's all shaping up. We've still got 3 undefeated teams after round 2, which is quite exciting in the men's competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that Horsham have got an away game this weekend, which, you know, we should see where that sits. But then, you know, they've got a road trip coming up. So they'll be playing some of those teams. So that'll definitely change in the next few rounds. So I think we should get a much better idea, you know, midway through November of how that's going to look. But yeah, exciting already to see where it's kind of, you know, developing that kind of top 4, bottom, you know, 5 or whatever through. So yeah, we'll just have to keep that, have a look at that and see where we're going.
And we'll now take a look at the Southwest women's results. And your team, Beck, Horsham Hornets, were able to stamp your authority on the league and show everyone that you're a team to be reckoned with this season, with a 50-point win over the Colac Cookers.
Yeah, look, I mean, to be honest, I was pretty surprised with that as a coach, but a nice surprise, obviously. As I said, you know, I knew Colac were going to be young, and but I mean, even with that point difference. It didn't showcase the team. I thought Colac were up and about. They were up in our girls' faces. They didn't hold back. They were tough. They kept going. They didn't stop. So a credit to Troy and their team. They held their heads up and they just kept fighting. So, you know, I thought that was a really positive thing for them. And I just said to them after the game as well, like, you know, you've got to look to where you're going to be in 3 to 5 years from now. We've all been in that position where we've lost by a lot. And, you know, when you've got such a young team, it is hard. And I'm fortunate to finally, after 4 years, 5 years, have a strong senior list this year, which does make a difference when you're playing women as opposed to juniors. So, you know, that really helped my girls. But yeah, look, I just said to them, you know, they'll form their leadership group in 5 years from now. And if they stick together and they back each other in, you know, they're going to be in a much better position. But again, you know, we're fortunate to have them because without them, there isn't a competition really. So, you know, it was still a really good game. And look, my girls were amazing. Emma and Maddie Ardell, the twins, you know, they were kind of like a bit of a fence. No one could get through them. They are very big, strong, athletic girls. And between the two of them shot 54 points. So, you know, that was pretty awesome to see. And, you know, then I had, you know, Liv Jones, our captain, Caitlin Story, and one of our young girls. But we only had 7 players because one of the girls was really not in a position to come on. So I got to be able to run Maddie Bethune, and then Isabella, my daughter McIntyre, she was able to go on and she scored her first 2 points. So that was pretty cool for her as a Hornet. And yeah, but all in all, it was, you know, if you had said to me last week we were going to score 100 points, I would have said not a chance. But I was very impressed with that. We have a lot of work to do, though. Letting the other team, letting Colac score 50 probably wasn't on my desire list. So it'll be all about defense this week at training.
And Mount Gambier hosted Millicent in it was a beautiful day in Mount Gambier. They had their juniors playing before their seniors, which is a great event to see the associations having. But they went down by 26 to Millicent and the women, which was a little bit interesting. I would have thought Mount Gambier might have been a little bit close to Millicent this season.
Yeah, look, I think it's always hard to tell at the start too, like we've talked about, you know, the fact that you know, it is inavailable, like inability to play in and out, availability, stuff like that. But you know, Millicent has proven that they are the team, you know, that is setting the standard for everyone else to follow, finishing, which we'll get into, but the weekend 4-0, sitting up there, you know, good for them. And, you know, with a couple of their noticeable absences that we've talked about, not being there this season. So I wouldn't be reading too much into Mount Gambier's team, though. They always bounce back and they're always strong. So, you know, you've still had a couple of girls, three girls that have all scored over 10. You know, Sarah Ritter, she's a great player. She's been around the league for a while, and you know, she's going to continue to get better and better. Olivia Warnwell, she's the same. They're all really good players. So yeah, I think that's probably not a real indication. I wouldn't think of where we're going to go by the end. Just in my opinion, I think they'll get better and better.
And Millicent hosted Warrnambool on Sunday and was able to take the victory. You know, 13 points, and Poppy Venn obviously stood tall, shooting 27 on Sunday, which is was Warrnambool's first game, so we can't read too much into that. But it's a good result for Millicent to be able to walk away at the end of round 2, 4-0.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said, they're the team. They're definitely sitting up there with the team that set the standard for everyone else. Obviously, Poppy Van, you know, Edie, Easter Beach, they're having great weeks, week in, week out. I mean, they're fortunate. We've got a bit more data on them. They've played 4 games now. So, you know, they've got strong, consistent scorers with Alana Birkenfield. She's been consistently up there as well. So, you know, I think Warrnambool wouldn't be too disappointed with that. As you said, first game, it's hard to come in and play on a Sunday too. I don't know if that's necessarily the easiest thing. But, you know, I saw they had Molly McKinnon come back in on the weekend, so she wasn't on their original team list, but she's a more senior player. So if she does continue to play, she'll definitely give them a little bit that leadership. She was the captain of the Big V team that just won the Div 1 championship. So she's a big in for them and gives them, you know, that bit more experience. But Mia Mills leading the way. I feel like Mia Mills is a senior, even though she's only a junior. She's been playing for 5 years, I feel like. And for her to have 22, she'd be happy with that. And it's good to see her taking the lead and stepping up and being that leader for them. And yeah, look, Warrnambool's there. I rate them highly. They're all very good. They've got strong depth. So they'll bounce back from this for sure. And yeah, I think it's going to be a close competition, which is good.
to the ladder after round 2 probably doesn't paint the picture too much. We've got, 4 teams playing 1 game and another playing 4. So Horsham sit on top with the big victor over the weekend, 1-0, and then we've got Millicent sitting second, 4-0. So, them 2 teams, both undefeated at the moment. It'd be a cracking clash when Horsham and Millicent take on each other in a couple of weeks' time. And then we've got Warrnambool sitting 3rd, Portland 4th, Mount Gambier 5th, and Colac 6th. So it'd be good to see them teams play a few more games in the upcoming weeks. Then Millicent takes, a bit of a back seat late in the half of this year of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how the ladder's sitting, come round 5, 6, possibly even 7, where teams have played a lot more games. And it'll be interesting to see how it all sits, won't it?
Yeah, look, and it does depend on your away, and like I think it like most competitions, but especially in CBL, your away teams generally can be different sometimes to your home teams. A lot of juniors don't travel sometimes, so a lot of things can change from that, and it is hard to play the road trips, especially with the travel components that we have, because we have got those big distances. But yeah, look, I think this is going to be a cracking close competition, and I think it'll probably go right down to the line. So, yeah, as you said, Millicent sit out there on 4 games and the rest, pretty much everyone else is on 1. So I think in the next few weeks, we're going to get a bit more of an indication of where that goes. But it's good to go out there and, have competitive games week in, week out. And, it's good to play, it's good to coach, and it's good for the league. So
that wraps up our round 2 review of the Southwest Conference. Make sure everyone stays tuned for later this week when we release our round 3 preview.